Spooky Tuesday. Help me.
Hallå?
Snälla, help me.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff. And this week,
It's right.
What? You went silent.
You started talking at the same time. And I was like, I thought I was doing it. All right. How about this? Okay. One moment of silence and then say whatever pride makes you feel like.
What? I cannot do word association.
Okay, a
on the
moment
record.
of silence and then
Can't
just
do
scream
it.
the word pride at the top of your lungs. Okay.
Okay.
Pride.
Right. Sydney didn't scream. Sydney, we have to redo it for Sydney.
That's as loud as you're going to get from me.
Sydney.
We're all weak today, but we're still filled with pride is the thing because it's Pride Month, baby. And
Escúchame! Pride!
Escúchame, it's Pride Month.
You're making fun of me because I don't know how to speak very good Spanish. But you should listen to us. It is Pride. You
Yeah,
should listen.
listen to us. It's Pride. And we're doing Pride movies all month long, except for obviously the Final Destination movie that we're gonna be doing
Here's the thing.
for Final Destination Summer.
Final Destination is gay just because everybody loves it, mostly the gays.
Those
And by
logs,
mostly-
gay.
The gays? Us.
Well,
Uh-huh.
you know
Of
who's
course.
a queer icon? Death herself, baby. So it makes it a Pride movie. It really does. And I'm sure we can find a way. I haven't watched that one in a while. So I'm sure we can find a way to make Final Destination 2 a Pride movie. But anyway, we're not doing Final Destination right now. That's later on. Hold on. First, we're doing something completely different. We haven't gone this direction in a minute. We've been doing some like fun, new, funny sort of movies lately, but now we're getting a little, it's true. Carrie, I guess, is a little serious, but I laughed a lot in
Carrie's like
Carrie.
prestige, but I wouldn't say it's art house.
This is Art House and it's Swedish and it was fucking awesome in my opinion. This is Let the Right One In, the original one that came out in 2008. Not the
Chloe Grace Moretz.
Chloe will have her day. Chloe will
have her day. One day we'll do a movie with Grace Moretz in it. Probably. I don't know.
One day we'll do Greta, which I saw in theaters and inspired anger in myself and the rest of the audience.
Okay, so that's three
I don't
Chloe
even
Grace
know,
Moretz
so-
movies.
Is it a
So
horror
we're
movie?
only one away
It was
from
bad.
Chloe Grace Moretz month.
Wow.
I'm sure she's got more.
I'm sure. I'm absolutely positive, but I don't want to go on to
500 Days
IMDb
of
and
Summer,
look it
horror
up.
movie.
She's in that.
Yeah, she's the little sister.
Oh, that's been a long
She's
time.
the
since I've
snarky
seen that.
little sister.
Oh,
You know when she was having her like, I'm young, but I'm snarky, and that's why it's funny moment because she was also in Kick-Ass doing the same shtick.
Oh yeah. Well, Kick-Ass is great. I love Kick-Ass.
No, they're both great.
Oh yeah, 500 Days.
She
of
just
Summer
was
is
having
also
that
great.
was her
shit
her
fucked me
brand
up.
for a moment.
I just want to
Okay,
say
okay.
there's a literal article called Every Chloe Grace Moretz Horror Movie Remake. So apparently there's a lot.
She's in Scary Movie 6.
She's in the
What?
Amityville Horror, The Eye,
Oh,
Let
she was
Me
in
In,
Suspiria.
Dark
That's another
Shadows,
remake.
Carrie,
Oh
like,
fuck! Wow, we're
wow.
gonna do this.
We're gonna do this.
I'm
We might do
scared.
this. because the theme is nebulous enough where all the movies are going to be way different from each other, and then the through line, we'll just have a set through line. The clear
Okay, well, it
reference will
has to
be
be-
preset as
Has
Chloe
to be
Grace Moretz.
2023 per your declaration at the end of last episode.
Well, I misspoke. Okay, I can't predict the future.
November is Chloe's month.
Oh my God. Okay, it's a beautiful theme, but we're going to talk about the original now. This kind of like work of art, in my opinion. I really liked it. I'm releasing all of my secrets of how I felt about the movie right away. But this is the IMDb logline. Oscar, or Oscar, as they say in the movie, which I like better. An overlooked and bullied boy finds love and revenge through Ely, a beautiful but peculiar girl. And I like that they leave it at that, for the log line doesn't give away too much or anything at all, just people's names.
Literally anything. Yeah.
I like the ominousness. I don't like spoilers. And I know it's been like how many years? I'm not going to do math. A lot. 14 years since this movie came out. Is that true? Yes. I did math.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah,
math.
it's been
That's
14.
fine. Mental math. But I did not have any of this movie spoiled for me in those 14 years. And I'm so thankful, because like the little twists and turns of this are so much fun. We haven't done a vampire movie in a minute, have we?
Have we?
I don't think we have.
I have
think
no
it's
recollection.
been-
It's been, have we done one since last Pride Month?
When was Twilight? When did we do
Oh, fuck.
Twilight?
No. Oh my God. Stop. That's the whole intro to this episode. We figured it out. This is the starting point. Twilight. You know what came out the same year as Twilight? This fucking movie. These movies are contemporaries. So we did Twilight back in November to prepare us to do this will be a verbal essay on comparing and contrasting Let the Right One In with Twilight. 2008.
Totally.
This is
They're
just Twilight
not
gender
dissimilar.
swapped. Okay.
This is Twilight gender swapped minus like take it to middle school. Like it's like middle school Twilight gender swap. Very exciting.
There's elements there for sure. For sure,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
elements. Yeah.
There were like 5 articles that I wrote that were like in juxtaposition to Twilight, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, they can both be good, okay? They're
They
just
can
good
both
in
be good.
different ways. But this movie is based off of a book that came out in 2004, and the book was written. Oh God, okay. Everybody's Swedish, and I have no idea how to say any of these words. But his name is John Ajvide Lindqvist. Does that sound right?
John does not sound right, but
Well, his first name is John. So John.
Jan?
Jan?
I don't know.
The director
Anyway.
is Tomas Alfredson. That one I've got on lock. And yeah,
Lindqvist. That was a
It's-
guess.
Lindqvist.
But I do think
I don't
it's
know.
cool that the person who wrote the movie is the same person as the author of the book. I always like it when the original source creator gets to be involved, as long as they don't suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting too, because like we'll get into all this, but like when the book was written in 2004, they did some things because about with like gender and pronouns, and they did made some weird choices with how they handled one of the characters, Ely's character. But I think the movie is an improvement on what I've read about the book. And so growth, look at that with Jan or
Amazing.
John. Amazing.
Okay, one of the things that I have been thinking about ever since I watched this movie.
Okay.
So you kind of could tell in the movie that this takes place in the 80s because you see like weird glimpses of like Ronald Reagan in the background. But do you
Wait,
know what?
can you?
Yeah, you can.
I didn't notice at all. I think I read on IMDb, this movie takes place in blah, blah, and I was like, okay. And I just moved on with my little life.
I had no idea. And then I was like, why is Ronald Reagan like on the TV? And then I Googled it and it was like set in the 80s. And I was like, oh, fun. But do you know what else was big in Sweden in the 80s? Like, all these people listen to ABBA. So I want to know what ABBA song is
Who's
Ely's.
the dancing queen?
Knowing me, knowing you. Yeah, okay, that makes me feel really good knowing that like they were listening to ABBA while this was all going down. Like it was definitely happening. ABBA was involved in the storyline. Even though we don't see it, it was
It's
surely a part
there.
of it.
Wait, they did listen to the Clash,
context
and I thought it
clues.
was like a fun little throwback, but I guess that also was timely, perhaps, instead.
Yeah. Yeah. No, okay. The thing for me, this is the second time this has happened in 2 weeks. I watched like the entire first season of Dairy Girls on my flight home over the weekend. And then
Mhm.
at the very end, I was like, oh, this is a period piece. I had no idea. I was like, that's just what it's like in Dairy. I don't know. I had no idea. I was like, the girl just has crunchy hair. That's just how she does her hair. She uses a bit too much mousse. No, it's the 80s. That's why she was doing that. And so same with this movie. And then I was like, oh, wait, there's like not a phone ever. See, isn't that nice that when we can watch movies and be like, and just not notice that there's no modern technology? We could survive without it. We could. If I just threw it in the
Could
river.
we?
I could survive for a 2-hour period with just glimpses of my life for sure. You could compile footage of me without a phone. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I've been on it pretty constantly lately. So
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
that's a lie.
I'm on mine
That's-
right now.
That's why I'm
She's on
saying
her
this.
phone constantly when we record. She's always sending little tweets, and I'm always like, "What are you doing?" But she's here.
She's the queen
discussing.
of multitasking,
Queen of
okay?
multitasking.
Sydney has
Cutting her
rampant
hair.
ADHD
tweets.
and just isn't medicated yet.
You need it to give us your focus.
Well, that's the
I
thing.
do need
That's
to be
something
medicated,
about
yes.
That's not what I meant. But maybe it's not for me to say.
Well, that's something that's important with this movie, though. Like while I was watching this, I had to watch it again because I kept getting fucking distracted by my stupid phone and doom scrolling. When like you have to like be really paying attention to this movie because not only is it in a foreign language, so you have to read the subtitles, but also there's a lot of like little nuances that happen that you need to be able to see and like visual cues and stuff. And so like I had to watch it twice. I'm really glad that I did because I had like a fuller experience. This is like really beautifully shot movie, I think, too. And I read this article on Medium, like people have written like citation heavy essays about this movie, okay? Like I couldn't get through the whole thing. And I want to apologize to the person who wrote the Medium article because I got really mad at them because they kept switching the pronouns they were using for Ely just like whenever they wanted to. And I was like, what? Like I was so shocked by it. But then I read that that's exactly what the author did in the original book. And so either way, I still think that the Medium article could have been written better in, 2018 when it was written. But that said, the research that they did on like the stages of development for children and how the bullying that Oscar received at the certain stage of life that he was in led to these different personality traits. Like that's how deep they got. Like that's how deep. I was very impressed. It was very impressive. But I didn't read the whole thing. It's linked in the description if you want to go in there.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, there's citations. They looked like something I did when I used to write essays, but that's not where we are anymore. So I closed my eyes after I got to the citation part. But anyway, okay, setting the scene for this movie. It starts out from the perspective of a sweet baby bean named Oscar, who looks like a child version, a very pale child version of He-Man, in my opinion. He has He-Man's exact haircut. He-Man also
is a snot, and I say that because there's just so many close-ups of his actual snotty nose.
Snot?
Oh yeah. Also, Oscar does this thing throughout the movie where like his mouth is open a lot of the time.
In the pool. This movie has like a weird piss freak fixation, and then whenever Oscar is in the pool, I just kept waiting for there to be first of all, 100% kids have peed in that pool. But I kept waiting for them to make it canonical just based on all the other P moments that happened.
Yeah, that's another thing that they talk about in this Medium article, because they're like,
all the piss.
yeah, because he like still wets his pants. Oscar like has a lot of stuff going on with him. He is like mercilessly bullied by these 3 boys in his class that are little fucking psychos, and his parents are divorced, and like they both pretty much like ignore him, so he's just like off on his own being like bullied to hell. And so like he has developed some very worrisome hobbies to cope with this, such as everyone loves a collage. Everyone loves what's it called? Memory books. What's it called?
Scrapbook.
Scrapbooking. Everyone loves scrapbooking. We love to keep memories. But his scrapbook is just filled with murder articles.
He's a
and
true crime
pictures of knives.
aficionado.
That's like the first note that I took. I was like, this boy is gonna grow up to have a true crime podcast. Like that is Oscar's future.
Honestly, I have to say, obviously I knew this was a queer movie going in, and because we were looking for queer movies, and so I looked at a list, and that's where I found this. And I like read the description, I stored it away. I didn't process it, I guess, because I saw them started the movie looking at Oscar with his shullet and his true crime scrapbook, and I was like, Oscar's is a queer one, obviously. Obviously. And then I was like, they theming Oscar the whole time, and like she, her, and Ely when Eli shows up. And then at some point, I think maybe when Ely was wearing the trans color sweater right before Ely does the whole I'm not a girl thing. And then I was like, wait a second.
Oh my God.
Hold on a second.
They are wearing a trans colored sweater. You're so right. No, what, right?
Yeah.
What a great spot.
I don't know if it was intentional because I couldn't find anything saying that it was, at least from the director's standpoint, but I am hard pressed to believe that whatever costuming person didn't know what they were doing with that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like explicitly the 3 colors or whatever. So I don't
Even
know.
if they were just like making their own associations, being like, Ely's not quite a boy, but not quite a girl. And so a little baby blue for the boys and a little baby pink for the girls. And then a little white to show a neutral, blah, blah. You know, even if they were coming up
like,
with
hey,
even
maybe
if
you
they
created
designed
the trans flag.
themselves, basically, yeah. There's no way that there wasn't like color theory or whatever involved. But
totally.
it was basically the trans flag. It had like the stripes along the edge of the sweater. So
yeah, but I would welcome Oscar into the queer community.
He's got the shullet, which again, 80s, I guess, as it turns out. But
what word are you saying right now?
Shullet?
Shullet?
It's like a shag mullet. It's a very hot queer haircut. That's all over my TikTok For You page.
That's very true. I've seen it myself with my own eyes. I myself considered it. And then Alex, my best friend of the pod, the lawyer of our podcast, was like, absolutely fucking not. I was like, no, let me have a shullet.
I'm going to agree with her.
No, I know. I don't know if I could pull it off, but I would do my darndest. Anyway, but yeah, I think Oscar's definitely a part of the community. Apparently that is more a part of the book than it is in the movie, because the way that they handle like Ely's gender is like kind of not very different from the book, but different from the movie, but it is different. And so apparently there's a part where Oscar like asks a teacher about 2 men being together or something to that effect, and like was asking questions about it. So he was like doing more internal questioning of his identity in the book than is portrayed in the movie. Because in the movie, Oscar's like, cool. You want to go steady or what? You know?
He's like, I don't care.
I couldn't care less. Yeah. He's like, are we partners or what? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no spoilers for the most recent season of Sex Education, which at this point came out a while ago. But there's a non-binary character who like is having a romance with a character who up to that point has identified as straight. And the non-binary character is like, okay, but you understand that if you were in a relationship with me, it would not be a straight relationship, right? And so like I think there's that whole discourse as well, and people can identify however they want and identify their relationship however they want. I know different people have different feelings about it, but I welcome Oscar. And also I think Oscar maybe has gay dads. What was going on with the dads?
He does have gay dads.
That's
and
the vibe that I was picking
boyfriend
up.
situation. Yeah, but I was like, what are the vibes here? It felt romantic to me. And
okay,
then
I don't
framing it with the note from Ely being like, come home. I was like, okay, this is any trans movie we do apparently must have gay dads.
yeah, I guess. I mean, I was very confused when I first read that. Like I said, I wasn't giving it my full attention the first time. And so I misread the vibes so wrong. And I was like, this long-haired man that is with the dad is giving me creepy predator vibes.
I wasn't really sure. Yeah,
I was
watched
like,
that scene
he was
twice and was like,
acting
what's going on?
so weird with Oscar. And I was like, why is he acting like that? And Oscar looks so uncomfortable. And I was like, what am I not getting? Did I miss like a section of words from the subtitles? But no, it's just uncomfortable because he didn't know that his boyfriend's son was going to be there. And so he was acting kind of weird. And then they got blacked out. Like, why? That was weird. They're like, oh, hey, oh, your son's here. Well, we still have to drink this entire bottle of clear liquor and chain smoke in front of him. It was the 80s. I don't know. But yeah, there's multiple canonically gay people in this. Let's hope the mom's gay too, you know. She's just out there busy, bustling, being a lesbian. That's why she
have
can't
a mean boyfriend who yells.
I don't know what that is. Who is she talking to? We never see him. We just hear Oscar hearing them through the wall. And I can never, they don't always put subtitles for the words through the walls. So I was like, I have no
not my business to know. I decided she's a lesbian. Yeah.
The other business that pissed me off. Okay, this is one thing that bothers me sometimes with subtitle movies. It like they pick and choose what they're gonna put subtitles for. And so when they were showing the murder scrapbook, I was like, what does it say? I was like, why only sometimes you tell me what the words mean? And I was like, oh, okay, wait, that word looks like the word massacre, and now there's a bunch of pictures of knives. So I have figured it out, but it took me a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like when we watched Train to Busan and you went and looked up what the subtitles were saying on the TVs that were showing news about the zombies, and that was like so informative for those scenes. So like doing the extra research is worth it, people. Okay. But also, okay, just another thing, I haven't watched a ton of movies in it's in Swedish is the language, right?
Swedish.
Yeah, in Swedish. But it's like some of the words sound like the exact same as English words, and it would like scare me.
Yeah, when Ely is under the bridge luring Yoki, luring that man to his doom. She says, help me in what sounded very, I like snapped my head up from whatever I said. I was like, was that English? Like, what's going on?
I was like, is she here with me now? What's happening?
Is he American? And I missed that somehow. But she picked up on it right away. But then it kept going in Swedish after that. And I was like, oh,
okay.
Some words that have some like crossover. It's exciting. And like, I think the word for vampire, when he does say it, sounded like vampire.
That whole dialogue, very Twilight.
Very Twilight.
Oh yeah.
Say
very
out loud.
How old are you? 17. How long have you been 17? It's exactly
A
the same.
A while. Yeah.
To be fair, this one came first. So Stephenie Meyer, I see you out here watching gay Swedish art house. You can admit it, baby. It's okay. I know that's not your brand, but you can come forward.
When did Twilight the book come out? The first one.
It's not
2005.
But when we were in
2005?
Yeah.
Well, this came out first. So there you go. The book
Stephenie
came
Meyer,
out first. Stephenie Meyer out here being fluent in Swedish, reading the
first edition. Obviously.
and then plagiarizing it, which is not cool. All those things leading up to it were cool, that you're fluent in Swedish, Stephenie Meyer,
Yeah.
and that you love Swedish horror literature, and that you
Yes.
support the queer community.
Yeah.
But then plagiarizing all of that, wrong, bad.
Oh,
That's not what you do with it.
Stephenie.
Stephenie. Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about when they first meet, I guess. I love that they always meet at this like snow covered jungle gym in their shared apartment complex.
It's like so beautiful and like moody and atmospheric that it's so snowy the whole time in this movie. And it has like some really good fun opportunities that they do with the snow. Like
Totally.
with Yaki's body going missing, but they find the blood, and like
Yeah.
the ice when he's in the ice
ice.
later. Oh, that
Yes.
part's
Oh my
such a-
God. We'll get into that one. But one of the things I read about this movie is that they moved the location of where it actually took place to this area, to a different area that I can't remember the name. I'm so sorry. Where it's much snowier all the time, because like the like bleak, colorless, like blue tinged look of the entire thing is supposed to like represent how like bleak Oscar's life is, and like
that is
I
also
know.
very Twilight.
I know. They copy the whole damn thing, okay?
Portsmouth it's rain, Sweden with the snow.
Catherine
It has to be
Hardwick
gloomy.
also has blood on her hands, okay?
Catherine Hardwick. Catherine Hardwick, I know, is I'm
Catherine
not gonna
Hardwick's
project
seen this
anything onto
movie.
it. Yeah, Catherine Hardwick knows what she's doing, is all I'll
Yeah.
say.
I love her, okay? But I just like, I can't get over all of the similarities, all of the clear references. I can't get over it between this movie and fucking Twilight. Oh God. But anyway, straight up though, like the way that they slowly start showing all of Ely's powers, just I think is so brilliant in this movie. Like they do it from the very get-go, because like she's on the top of this not huge, but like jungle gym structure, which also is the saddest looking jungle gym I've ever seen, but it's fine. And it just goes with the whole bleak thing. Like usually in America, like colorful jungle gyms are like usually what you see, but this is just like wrought iron.
Well, maybe 80s jungle gyms were different in America too. I mean,
True.
now that I recall it's a period piece, it's anybody's game. Who knows?
It's truly anybody's game. But like first thing she does, she's like standing atop this entire tower. She appears there out of nowhere, and then she just jumps like 10 feet down like it's nothing. Like
so graceful.
yeah, so good. That's great. And I just love I love a slow burn romance, also a slow burn movie and a slow burn romance. They say like 3 words
And here's
to
the
each
thing.
other at first, but the vibes are there, you know.
I definitely like Twilight.
Yeah,
more
and
than
she's
this
like, just so
movie.
you know, we can't be friends. And he's like, okay, first of all, bitch, who said that I wanted a friend? Who said?
Not me. Do
Not
I seem that
me.
desperate? But okay, also, isn't there a part in Twilight where Edward's like, we can't be friends. It's better if
Even
we're not
though
friends.
this
Doesn't
movie
he
is
literally-
like art
The
house,
movie,
Twilight
definitely.
is
I don't
like
remember
a
about the
indie
books, but
movie.
for
Like, don't
sure,
forget
yeah.
He
that.
literally exactly says that in the movie. Like, I
The
can't. I'm sorry.
plagiarism.
We're gonna talk about smart shit with this movie, but we're gonna reference Twilight 40,000 times. So
look, if
go back to the
is
Twilight
gonna
episode
come
if you
up,
need a refresher.
if Twilight is going to come up while we are discussing the 2022 movie X, which has nothing to do with Twilight, it is certainly going to come up when we are talking about a vampire movie that came out around the same time based on a book that came out around the same time.
Yeah.
They are in conversation. It cannot be
Guardian.
helped.
Yeah, no, it really can't be helped. And I just love that, like, it just, not to like play into stereotypes, but I feel like a lot of people look at America and they're like, you guys are fucking nuts and you're silly as shit. So like Sweden, so Sweden had this like very serious, beautiful film about this concept. And then in America, we're like, here's Twilight. Not saying that it's not a very serious, incredible film.
They both have their different uses and
They all
purposes
have
and
their
moments.
different They have their different things. They're given different energy, for sure.
I will say there are definitely more times that I would be in the mood to watch Twilight than in the mood to sit and watch something with subtitles. That's for sure true. Twilight was an indie flick.
I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. Okay, I don't know if it's too early to talk about this, and so shut me down if necessary. But can we talk about? I'm not going to call him our boy. I was going to say our boy, but can we talk about Hakan or however you say his name?
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, okay. Hakan is, yeah, their name is Per Ragnar, which is literally such a badass name. That's the actor's name.
Is that the
but-
guy with Ely?
Yeah, Ely's like father figure slash like familiar kind of, you know.
Let's
and
talk about that actually though, because that scene comes
Yeah.
that first scene where they talk about it comes right after the scene where Ely and Oscar meet.
yeah,
So I think
so
it's very
I was
timely.
this is one of the movies that like I watched and I was like, I can't wait to research this because like researching it really helped me like the movie more because the
Uh-huh.
things that are ambiguous that could be ambiguously bad, some of it is cleared up in the book, but it's still creepy. But like Hakan is a familiar, you know, if you're familiar with familiars, it's like in What We Do in the Shadows. Is familiar the right
Guillermo?
word? Yeah.
Yeah.
Guillermo is the familiar to the vampires. It's like their helper. He helps like wrangle people to go get slaughtered. So that's like the same thing that Hakan is basically for Ely.
Well, and Ely is 12, so they can't like rent an apartment. They can't do like other things. So
Yeah.
Ely is the money and Hakan is like the adult.
Yeah, probably getting them some access to things that they need, but also access to blood. And I think the like introduction with Hakan was so like jarring and so good. That's something I really like about this movie just in general. Like it's this sweet like love story for a lot of the time, and then it'll just have the most like visceral gore out of nowhere, and it's like I love that. I just love it. It's like a slap in the face. I read some articles where people were like, I didn't like that. And I was like, well, you're stupid and wrong. That's mean. I'm sorry. But that I like the juxtaposition.
I didn't find it that gory. Like everybody was like, it's so gory and so blah blah. And I was like, I didn't think this movie was scary. I didn't think this movie like at the end scene did absolutely everybody was like, oh my God. And I was like, it doesn't slap for me.
The violence is very much implied, but I think the gore itself is on screen, but it's like they separated the two.
Yeah.
So usually they're so intertwined. So when you say gore, you mean like that, like in Scream when you see the knife going through Dylan Minette's throat, and you're like, ugh.
I don't.
Whereas in this movie, they're just giving you like a decapitated head in the pool, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean that it's like the goriest thing we've ever seen. It's just in juxtaposition to like the rest of this like romantic film. You know what I mean?
It's interesting that the gore is there without the violence, that they've divorced most of the violence from it.
Yeah. It's just like the way they do it. I really like the way that they do it. Like I could have seen more, but I didn't need to. And I think the way they did it was fun and artistic, and the shots were all pretty cool. Like with this poor first boy who gets it from Hakan, he like apparently, okay, this is a thing that I didn't pick up on at first because we're looking at 12-year-olds the whole time. So I'm like, that's a young kid. But then all the other people that Hakan is trying to kill, I guess, are also kids. I couldn't tell how old they are. And so all these articles are like, he's a pedophile.
Well, in the book, he's
and
a pedophile.
Yes.
Ew!
So he is. Yeah. So that's why I was so confused, because I was like reading some articles and people were like, ones that weren't even talking about the book. They're like, he's obviously like weirdly pedophilic because he's like obsessed with Ely and he only kills these young boys. And I was like, well, that's news to me. And so I was like, why? I don't understand it. But apparently in the book he is a pedophile. He's already like a weird, creepy, fucking horrible murder adult. I don't know if he was murdering people. I didn't read the book. But then he finds Ely and like offers to help them from that perspective. But Ely like obviously is way more powerful than them, so they can't do anything to Hakan can't do anything to Ely. But that's like where that power dynamic came, which
I reject.
I know
Veto.
I know that sounds really bad, but honestly, it made me feel a lot better about the ending, and I don't want to get into that maybe yet. But what I thought about Hakan made me feel very bleak about the entire relationship between Oscar and Ely. But
I think we might feel the same way then, but I kind of like it.
Well, because
Lee.
the movie makes it seem that like Ely and Hakan have known each other from like a young age and like grew
like
up
Oscar's age
together.
Yes.
And
yeah.
So that Oscar is going to become the new new Hakan.
Yeah.
And that's why Hakan is like jealous of Oscar and is like, just don't go meet that boy. And potentially why Hakan would also be targeting young boys. Although, frankly, the first one we saw, I thought that was a man. And I wrote in my notes, that's a man.
Too.
And then later people kept being like, the boy that was killed. And I was like, boy? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Because you never really see him, and then he's just upside down. You can't really tell how large or small he is.
And they go, this rag smells like cellophane, like in What Lies Beneath, a clear reference. Just love a little clear reference.
That's my favorite.
It wasn't even a rag. It was a gas
it was like
mask
a gas mask.
He has like a whole fucking thing. He was like, what's that? If you see a man with that, don't ask him. Go away.
I love when he's like trying to collect the blood and he's like hung like a deer, and then the white poodle is just staring at him.
The poodle, a white
Ricky.
poodle horse.
It's so funny.
Ricky is a great name for a white poodle. That's an iconic dog name, actually.
Fucking funny.
And he just like Hakan, like all of his prowess as a murderer is like, oh, this dog, I'm fucked. Like he can't figure out how to scare the dog away. He's really bad at it. He's terrible. He knocks over the blood, spills it everywhere. He just throws a little bit of snow at the dog, and the dog's like, what is that supposed to do?
He leaves everything behind and just hightails it out of there.
Idiot. So now the whole town's gonna be on murder watch right away. So you're gonna have a lot harder time snatching up other kids for Ely to eat for dinner. Idiot. Fire him, Ely.
It is interesting though that you mentioned that Hakan is only going after young boys, teenagers, maybe, because Ely is not doing that. Ely's are sort of moments of opportunity.
Yeah,
but they're both adults, which is interesting. The times that we see her feud directly from a person, they're all adults.
Yeah, and also on my second watch, when I watched Ely, I'm not sure if it was Yoke or Jock or Joke.
The thing is, there's two of them, and one is like Yaki and the other is like Loki. They're very similar names, as far as I could tell.
The sweet man with the beanie. Okay, that's who I'm talking about. He once Ely jumps him and sucks the life out of him, she kind of looks like really sad afterwards. They look really sad. So I don't know if like they don't like doing the killing themselves, or
I think they don't, because they have that whole conversation in the beginning, when what's his name? Hakan?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
That's what I'm saying.
Hakan comes home after the Ricky incident, and they have that whole dialogue, and Ely says, you're supposed to help me. Do I really have to take care of this myself? Say something. And Hakan says, forgive me. Like they're fighting. Because Ely is like, you said you would do this for me.
Yeah, you can't even fucking do it. You perv. That's the
I don't like that. I choose to, within the powers of my own reality, believe that Hakan was Oscar's age when they met, and perhaps they had a similar sort of romance. And then at some point, Hakan grew out of that age where that was their. Okay, not to do other Twilight references, but remember how with the whole imprinting thing, Jacob is like, you're whatever they need you to be at that point in your life. I was like, that's what's happening here. Hakan is just whatever Ely needs at that point in Ely's life. And now that Hakan is an adult, it's sort of like a fatherly figure, is what I choose to believe.
I like that interpretation of it, but we came at this so fucking differently. Let me explain to you how it made me feel. I was like,
Okay.
I'm loving this romance between Oscar and Ely, but I am now thinking about Hakan and how Hakan became what he is today. And I was like, okay, if he if he met Ely when he was also a little kid and they fell in love the same way that Oscar did and he lived in his entire life, like, okay, fine, whatever. But that started getting me thinking about how old Ely actually is. And there are all these reads on this movie online that are like, Ely is actually evil and is just luring people into subservience for them. And so that's another read too, where I was getting a little worried because the pedophile vibes that I was getting was like, not saying that I was getting that vibe from Ely, but just the age difference thing. Because Ely is 12 emotionally forever, which is something that is apparently expressed more in the book. So knowing that, I felt a little bit better about it. But I was like, is Ely's been alive for hundreds of years, and Oscar is 12, you know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, so I was like, oh fuck, like there is a very, very dark read of this movie, and finding out that Hakan had not been lured into the same trap. I'm using scare quotes because the trap doesn't really exist. In all of the research that I've done, I've decided that Ely is nice and good and just happens to be a vampire.
Well, the author,
but having the Hakan being like a pedophile, yeah, exactly. And being lured to Ely, I was like, it's different, so it's fine.
yeah,
You go, Sydney.
the author, like a lot of people had that read that like Ely is evil, and this is like, and the author literally wrote a follow-up book being like, no, like,
don't be mean to Ely. That's baby.
well, spoiler for the other thing, like
Spoiler for the book, the sequel.
second sequel. Ely turns Oscar into a vampire so they can like be together and like be in love. Because apparently, like
I love that
title of the movie is like "Let the Right One In," is less like you would think it's like vampire, like throughout the movie, like she can't come in unless they're invited.
Classic vampire lore,
but it's more like not her.
Ely's letting the right one in.
Yes, like they're letting the right one in. They've had Hakan.
Hakan.
I'm like, how have we been saying
Hakan.
it this whole time? And
Mr.
all that
Guy.
kind of stuff. And they find Oscar and they realize like, no, like this is it. I'm letting Oscar in on my secret and we can be together forever. So it's less, it's also a Morrissey song.
Yep. It's also a Morrissey song called Let the Right One Slip In. And it's like a rejigger of that name.
Right? Hilarious. Hilarious.
God damn it, Morrissey, you ubiquitous motherfucker. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
But it's such a good name. It's such a good title.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than Let Me In.
Yeah, why did they change it? Why did US always
Chloe 100% responsible.
It was Chloe.
Chloe had that
like,
creative.
For sure, Chloe had creative control. Yeah.
Chloe was like, in my version of the movie, I'm a cisgendered girl, and that name somehow is too clear. So get those other words out.
Chloe was like, escúchame. Let me.
Escúchame. We have way too many words in this title.
But yeah, I mean, I think to that point, Sydney, of it being like Ely is looking for the quote unquote right one. That's very much demonstrated through the end when Ely leaves and then comes back. You know what I mean? I think that that is the moment where it really becomes clear that this isn't just like a passing dalliance or whatever. Like this is a thing. And I'm glad to hear about the spoiler for the book sequel, because regardless of what you think about Mr. Guy Hakan, that was sort of the vibe with Oscar too anyway, right? Like either Ely changes Oscar or Oscar is going to do that same thing where Oscar is going to keep aging. And then one day Oscar's also going to be 46 or whatever.
Yeah. 46 is pretty spot on. He might be a little older than that, but
it felt right to me. It felt right in my
heart. The one thing that I saw this take somewhere online. I don't know, one of the references I have in the description. And they were like, you know, if you're gonna set up a 12-year-old boy with a really, really old vampire in a 12-year-old's body, at least the 12-year-old boy is a burgeoning, if I'm saying that word right, serial killer.
Oscar's ready and willing to do that job. Oscar is ready to step into the role of Mr. Guy.
He has officially been pushed too far, and then Ely's here being like, yeah, you should kill them. Like,
I
dude, they're fucking mean to them and mean to you. You should make them squeal like a little piggy. Like, yeah. But I just think that it was so it's disturbing, but it was so cute where Ely's like, hit back, you need to hit back hard, and that leads us to the ice skating scene, which I thought was so fucking fun. Like that whole scene was so well done.
I just love that they would do a field trip to go like ice skating in Sweden, like that's just so cute.
I love it. Little PE field trip.
But for the record, there's also a piss mention in that moment where those two little kids are like, we have to pee. And he's like, go make yellow snow. Like there's so many. I'm not going to list them all. I just feel like it needs to be acknowledged.
I missed him peeing his pants thing because I looked down and then I didn't understand why his pants were in the urinal at one point. That's like later on in the movie. I don't know what it is.
Somebody else peed on his pants in the urinal and it was a bullying thing while he was in the pool. Is that not what happened?
I thought too, but then like I didn't see another single time where he peed in his pants. And they said in the articles that he peed in his pants and he has a pee pants problem. But maybe that's only in the books. I don't know.
Maybe it's in the books.
It's definitely in the books. Thing. That's what I thought. Okay, all right. I'm getting confused. I'm sorry.
I'm committing to both. I'm writing my own canon. Hakan was a young Oscar once. Time is a flat circle. Those pants were peed on by somebody else.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wait. Okay. Before we talk about the ice skating scene, we have to talk about that one bullying scene that happens before this. I mean, there's much bullying, but like, can we talk about the scene where they whip Oscar with a switch?
That was fucked up. Oscar stone cold.
Also, like, why is everyone was like weirdly sensual in it at first? Like there was like getting some weird vibes, and
Connie
then like
was
why
so
is
flirty
this
that first time he like leaned up against him on the lockers or whatever at school, like in that classic lean up flirty pose.
Connie has got weird vibes, but he also has like really cute little scars on his face that are little circles, and I like those. So good for him. But he does do a good job of looking like he's gonna kick you. Like that's just how his face kind of looks. So that was a good job. But yeah, like he's like kind of like Connie's like the mastermind. He doesn't actually like act out most of the violence. He has his lackeys do it. Which is and unfortunately I don't know the names of the other two kids, the blonde boy and the one who is taller. And like I was trying to parse out like which of them was like more innocent, you know what I mean? Because Connie's obviously the mastermind. They seem like they're being like kind of forced to do it, but like why does the blonde boy get so into whipping him? It's like he's having it he's like working out some sort of emotional thing going on with him. He's like crying as he's whipping him up. And I was like, what is happening? And then the tall, gangly boy is like, oh, I'm going to only hit him one time, but it's across the fucking face. What is wrong with these children? This is insane.
It was the 80s,
God.
man.
Definitely. I mean, those kids
Everyone
are
was getting
honestly-
whipped in the 80s.
I guess I don't know what they.
I wasn't alive.
That time period.
I wasn't alive.
Yeah, definitely that one kid was working out some anger issues for sure.
Yeah. And then he was
but
like
I don't
crying
know.
after. I was like, what is happening with you?
And then
I
at
was
the end, arguably the end would posit, I think, that he is the more innocent one because he's the one sitting crying in the bleachers who doesn't get decapitated.
yeah,
right?
that's what I was thinking too. I was rewatching that scene and I was looking at it to see like who deserves to live. You know what I
and
mean?
the tall
and like
one was the one who did the phone call. Who
well, the tall
lured.
one looked like he had looks on his face several times throughout the bullying
he was
scenes
sad
where
and
he
worried?
looked like he felt bad about it, but then he opted so far in where he pretended to be Connie's friend and all that, so that's probably what did him in.
Yeah.
I don't know why Blondie is scared. Maybe there just wasn't time for that many kills, but we'll get to that later.
I think they were all scared by the brother at the end. Also, I think the brother was like a whole new. They were like, "I'll whip somebody in the face, but I don't know that I want to actually murder someone."
Well,
I'm not in
if
for
Connie's
drowning.
if Connie's a fucking psychopath, which he is, or sociopath or something, like he's like getting that, he's learned it from his big brother who even bullies him. So like that's like where that's coming
Cycle of
from.
violence.
Seriously. But anyway, that leads to the ice skating event where Oscar's decided to take back his, I don't know, life and show the bullies
His
what's
power.
what. His power.
Oscar's
And
been
so he
working
finds-
out, y'all. Like, don't forget.
He has.
He
been.
has. He's been
He's been
pumping
doing water
iron.
aerobics.
He
He's
did
been
those little chest presses. I don't know what exercises they're called, but that feels right. That
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like it could
Bench
be
press.
right.
Running in the water and looking with his mouth wide
With-
open.
just swallowing
Ah.
chlorine.
And that did something, good for him. But when someone is telling you that they're gonna drown you, I'd hit him in the fucking head with a big pole too. I think that was warranted. But he really blew up his whole fucking ear. Do you think it like destroyed his eardrum? Like, was he deaf now? Definitely gave him cauliflower ear.
Ugh.
What's cauliflower ear?
Boxers get it a lot. It's like when your ear gets punched and like the
Oh,
cartilage breaks, and so it
boxers get
looks
a
like
lot.
cauliflower. Hence the name. I don't
Fascinating
know why I know
knowledge.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't watch boxing, but I know about this.
I'm trying
Anyway.
to reconcile what an injured ear would look like with my knowledge of what cauliflower looks like, but I've decided I don't need to.
Don't Google it. I don't think you'd like what you see.
I don't want to
Uh,
know.
It's not for me to know. It's not for me. Anyway.
I just love the moment. They do like so many like cool shots where like it was all the teachers and all the kids like in the middle of the ice. And Oscar's just hit Connie in the head. And so all of a sudden you hear Connie screaming bloody murder and everyone looks one direction. And then 5 seconds later, someone on the P kids have found Yoke's body encased in ice.
In the hot spring.
Yeah, screaming at the top of their lungs. I just loved that scene. I just thought it was so well done.
Mhm.
And I also just loved like how fucked up it was that like Yoke is like half in the water, half out of the water in this
Yeah.
block of ice, and they like lift him out of the pond. I just
And
thought
he's
it
just,
was
like,
so
suspended in
visceral and
it.
fun.
Ugh,
Yeah,
spooky.
it's so good. It's so good. What else do we?
Let's
wanna
talk about their whole group for a moment, actually, because we've spent some
Yeah.
time with Oscar and Easy.
Oh yeah,
And the
But they've
cats.
got their whole the cats. That is so fucked up. Also, those scary little angry CGI cat
Cats?
faces.
And they also set that up earlier in the movie that cats
Mhm.
fucking hate vamps, because I missed that the first time when Ely and Oscar are on like their first date. They go to get some sort of cookie that makes Ely throw up. And there's
Ely
a
is
cat, and
so
the
willing
cat
to try
sees
things for
Ely and is
Oscar.
like absolutely fucking not, and goes absolutely
Fuck you,
bonkers
yeah.
at Ely.
But I saw that first scene and I noticed it and I was like, okay, animals do not like Ely, perhaps cats specifically, I don't know. Somehow I didn't see it coming when they introduced an apartment full of cats that would be plot relevant. I didn't make the connection at the time, was not watching with my smarty brain on, I guess.
Well,
But
I didn't
thought
think
the
that
cats
group
would
of
be
friends.
scared and run away. I didn't think they would attack.
Cats are actually our natural protectors from vampire and occult figures. No, I don't know. I'm just
That's
saying
why the
things with
Egyptians
authority.
loved cats.
That's why
presumably.
Sydney has so many cats.
Keep the vampires away.
Smart.
She's smart. She's a
Do you
smart
want to
gal,
keep
okay?
the vampires away?
If they look
I
like
guess you
Robert
wanna keep
Pattinson,
them-
no.
They're
Yeah.
not all Robert Pattinson and Ely's, okay?
Why?
You want to keep them
There's also
far
Laurent.
enough away until
Laurent's good.
you've determined that they are friend, not foe.
Laurent's good for a little while, and then Laurent still tries to eat Bella, so he can't be trusted. He is hot.
But also,
though.
you're safe in your home as long as you don't invite them in. Per this movie's lore, at least. I loved
True.
that moment when they're just. I love how they handled all of the vampire lore
Yes.
in this movie. I thought it was really interesting the way that they introduced it, where it's like a little sunlight is not the end of the world, but like the full blown exposure for more than a few seconds, like fully up in flames. But the
I
part with
loved
Ely
that
and Oscar,
scene.
yeah, so good.
That's
So
That
darling. I
lady,
was like,
so
I was like
pretty.
killed that
cheering.
role. She
She
did
bodied
amazing.
it. Yeah, poor
Um,
thing.
But Ely, when Oscar's like, what would happen if I didn't let you in and you came in anyway? Like, would you hit a wall? Would you not be able to enter? And then Ely strolls right in, and you're kind of like, okay.
But she
all
looks
right.
so sad. They look so fucking
Yes.
sad. And I'm like, why they look so
Ely-
sad?
Ely is so willing to try things for Oscar, like the cookie being like, I guess I'll try it, which also doesn't Edward eat something and then herk it up later
Yeah.
for Bella, another Twilight reference.
A
Or
Cleo
Twilight 2
reference.
reference, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You guys get it. But Ely walking in and then kind of standing there and then like getting like a little, not quite trembly, but a little unsteady, and then the blood just coming
Ugh.
out of all of Ely's orifices.
And
Like,
the shots that they did
wow.
of that of their hairline and like
Which was so good.
and the eyes. Oh, so good. Oh,
Also,
I love this movie.
you know what else? True Blood came out in 2008 too. So like
What
we were
was happening all over the
we were
world?
having like a vampire renaissance.
Because I have Renaissance.
Which just makes me want to watch True Blood. So I know what I'll be doing later this evening.
Well, True Blood's like vampire porn, right?
Yeah.
It's on
Real hot.
HBO.
Real hot, real good.
Yeah, there's nudity. Okay, yeah.
And
I
Alexander
could see it.
Skarsgård.
Ooh.
No, but one time I watched True Blood. With one of my other friends, and I fell asleep, and then I had vampire dreams. So
Here's the thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Alexander Skarsgård is in True Blood, but which came out in 2008, and he is also Swedish, which brings us back to this movie.
It's a clear reference. Oh
He did
my
this on
god.
All the
This is
2008
astounding.
vampire movies just go
This
in like a
is like-
circle.
This is like Da Vinci Code level connections here, y'all. Like we're unmasking something. Something is happening.
But honestly, like, what
National
happening.
treasure.
What was
International
happening
treasure.
in
The
2008?
Freemasons are behind it.
Something was put in the water supply. I can only assume.
Yeah, probably too much fluoride.
Uh-huh.
Anyway. Okay, what other things do we want to talk about? We touched on
Wait, we want to talk about not just the cat scene, but I want to talk about like that whole thing because that lady ruled
yeah,
and her boyfriend sucked and he should have died. Did he die? I don't think so.
he
right?
did die. He did die.
Oh, good.
He dies.
Oh, good.
He dies
How
hella.
did he die again?
We'll get to that. He dies
Excuse
in
me.
the bathroom after he tries to kill Ely. Do you not remember this?
I don't remember
No.
this at all.
Oh my god. Okay. This is what happens. Do we want to talk about the girl first or talk about this?
Just tell me this.
Okay. Basically, after the girl bursts into fucking flames because she'd been turned into, her name's Virginia.
Oh,
She
and he's
turns
being
into a
such little
vampire.
bitch.
Before Virginia died, she said to Lackey, I guess is her
Lockie?
boyfriend, Lockie. She was like, there was something with that child, like they attacked me, blah 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 blah. They did something to me and infected me, and I don't want to live anymore. Very bleak. And so now Lockie's got that in his head. He's like, there's something up with that kid and that apartment. Like, it was a kid. There's that random kid who moved into the apartment complex. Like, I'm gonna go in there. So he somehow can just get into Ely's apartment. And then I was confused about the timeline here, but Oscar had like slept over at Ely's apartment that night,
Yeah,
and
that
so
part
he was
confused me a
in the
little bit.
house. Yeah, I think that's one flaw in the film. They don't really explain what happened there. They like leave out a chunk, so you're like, what? Why is he there? But I guess
that's right
he,
after the dad scene, right? And then Oscar, because the first time Ely came into Oscar's apartment and slept in his bed with him, got fully naked, and then left that little note. And then at the dad's, the boyfriend,
he runs away.
Yeah, or he doesn't run away. He like a car comes and picks him up. But
he was going like
other
this.
guy
I thought he was hitchhiking.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay, so this is what happened.
80s.
He hitchhikes home, and then
he
goes to.
So the mom thinks he's at the dad's. That's why he can stay with Ely.
Yeah. And then she finds out in the morning because he comes in and he turns on the light and looks at his mom and then turns the light off and then leaves. And then I guess goes and stays with Ely. Very weird. I don't understand. Either way, he's there. And then Lockie like tries the bathroom door. It's locked. He gets a knife to unlock the door, opens it. And then he like finds Ely wrapped in like 20 towels in a bathtub and can't see anything. So he's about to like pull away the cover of the window. And then Oscar's like, stop it, and has his knife out. And then Ely goes ape shit and rips Lockie limb from limb. Not limb from limb.
As he deserves.
As he deserves.
Because he was not a good boyfriend to that very nice lady.
No, okay, I get that grief brings out the worst in people, but like he was so fucking mean to her. Like I know that Joke or whatever or Jock was his like best friend. He was obsessed with him. But he's like, you're a frigid bitch, essentially what he says to her. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't understand what I'm feeling because you're ice cold. She's being very warm.
She's being the sweetest little pea.
Yeah. Was being a big old dick. And so when you're a dick to your girlfriend and you make her run out into the cold, then she's going to get eaten by a vampire. And that's on you.
I just felt like he was like physically rough with her, maybe, if I'm recalling correctly, at some points too. And then when she was in the hospital, he wasn't stroking her fucking hand. He was stroking the restraint on her wrist. And I thought that was
weird.
And also he really didn't do much to help when the cats attacked her. So, and that was the moment that he got rough with her. He got rough with her right before the cats, I think. They were like fighting, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. The CGI. Oh, bless you.
Big sneeze.
The cat attack was so fucking funny. So
it was so funny. It was so funny.
It was
Twilight's a comedy,
amazing.
And so is this movie.
It was beautiful because, you know, the movie is so like highbrow art house and it needed something to bring it back down to earth. And it's the shitty CGI cats. They're so angry. I was like, what is occurring? Because there's like been very few uses of CGI throughout the rest of the movie. I think there's like one or two like little things, but this is like fully like 20 CGI cats.
Yeah, 20 CGI cats at once really did bring it home. I did like when they would randomly be like, Ely is old, actually. Because there was one moment right after Ely attacked Yaki, whatever, in the beginning. Yaki, I think, and then whatever. the nice one in the beginning, and then Ely like looks up from feeding, and I swear to God, Ely looked like the mom from How I Met Your Mother if she was playing a zombie. That's how she looked. That's what was happening in that scene.
What I thought when Ely looked old, because like basically, let's talk about what changes with Ely when they're in attack mode. Like their eyes get fucking massively goddamn huge, and then also kind of reptilian or maybe even cat-like. They get the pupils that go the other direction. Yeah, it doesn't always show up, but there's this one point when Oscar and Ely are hanging out and they go under the pool or whatever to that weird room right before Oscar decides to make them blood brothers like a fucking idiot.
Oh my God. You gotta ask for consent for that first.
Yeah,
you can't just
don't
be like,
cut yourself first.
And also, like, I guess
when you're a dumb idiot with a blood hand.
Yeah, it
and
was
no
the
one
80s, possibly pre-AIDS crisis really being big news. I don't know exactly, and I don't know how that went in Sweden. But you should not just intermingle blood without checking with the other person. Bare minimum.
Also,
bare minimum.
This is your partner, Oscar. Y'all are going steady, and you want to mix blood. Now you're related, and now it's incest. So you can't do that. That's how it works.
A science experiment, though, like with the come on in thing. Also, that was very much a science experiment for Oscar, and also Oscar did not ask if Ely wanted to participate in that science experiment either. Oscar was just like, "All right, show me what happens." And
he's
Ely
trying to be too cool, only at Ely's expense. But in that moment, it was like another reveal of one of Ely's like powers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the lights were off and Oscar hadn't turned the lights back on yet, like you could see Ely's eyes glowing, like how a cat's eyes glow, or like how, you know, any animal when they're in the headlights, their eyes glow. And then they turn the light on, Oscar turned the light on, and their pupils were like I don't know, kind of not diamond shaped. It's hard to describe, but like sort of like a cat. They looked like a cat, and then they slowly went back to normal human circle pupils. I don't know. It was cool. I liked it. But when Ely goes full vamp, you were saying that they look like zombie version of whoever that is.
What's her name? Kristen Milioti from Made. She's also Made for Love. That show's really good, by the way.
God, wait. No,
Kristen
Chelsea, you watched Once Upon a
Milioti.
Time, right?
Tragically, I did watch a lot of that show.
What's the name of the fucking guy? What's the name of the weird guy? Rumpelstiltskin. She looks like Rumpelstiltskin to me.
A little bit when he's in his full lizard man form.
I was like, oh no, Ely, I'm so sad to hear this for you.
Ely just needs to remind us every now and then that they are in fact 200 plus years old. Just a
I like that
cute little reminder.
And I love that Ely can like scale the walls. I love that scene at the hospital where
that part was so good, because when the nurse came out looking for Ely afterwards, and then Ely was up on the wall, I didn't even notice Ely until the nurse was going back inside, and Ely started like climbing, and I was like,
that scene is so cool.
It's so
cool, that whole thing. And then they go to Hakan's room, and you get the reveal of what happened to Hakan's face after putting that acid on his face. Because I was so confused with that pickle jar. I was like, why is he bringing this pickle jar filled with liquid around? Like, is he doing pickleback shots? Like, what the fuck is happening? But it's just, he brings that acid with him everywhere,
just in case,
so he can protect Ely if he gets caught murdering someone.
Damn.
And so, like, if they'd been seen together, I think that's what it was. Because why else would he bring that around? And yeah, the makeup or CGI or whatever the fuck, it was CGI of his face was just like really cool. They could like see into his mouth, and he like only had one eye like left, and he doesn't even say anything because he can't talk. Like he can't say come in because he can't speak. Yeah. That's why he like gets up.
He has to hobble to the window to go to her.
Yeah, and he like presents his neck to her. He literally like puts his neck out there, and like, oh, when he takes out his trachea thingy. Oh my God. It just like was very disturbing and very well done. And he just falls and smacks on the ground, hits a few things on the way down. Like that's what I mean with the gore. Like it's this beautifully shot and artistically shot and like emotionally moving. And then it's just like literal, like the violence is just like visceral, you know?
Chelsea, you'll hate this. So in the book, I read a lot about like the book versus the movie. And so you can become two kinds of vampires. One is like Ely vampire, and one is like just like a Walking Dead kind of like corpse vampire where you're just like no brain, no emotion, whatever. You're just like attacking.
Only blood.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
a zombie vampire, if you will.
Basically, yeah. So in the book,
Zampire.
She doesn't kill him, and so Haskin becomes
Hakar?
Whatever.
Hakan.
Yeah, whatever.
Mr. Guy.
Hakan.
I don't know his name.
Just say Hakan. We're committed to that.
Hakan becomes like he doesn't die. She doesn't fully drain him. She gets interrupted, and so he becomes like one of the later vampires. But he has like a fixation on her, so he comes back to try to kill her.
No,
Wow.
that's
like,
You're right. I hate it.
They have this like whole.
Oh, I want to
like,
read the book.
I do want to read the book.
I'm interested in the book. I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard it's like incredible, but there's like a lot of moving parts in it.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of
fuck.
Well, there's a lot of important characters, and like apparently there's like a POV from a squirrel.
Oh, love that. Unexpected. I never could have guessed that in my whole life. Amazing.
So like you get
is
a
the
lot
squirrels
of
like fuck you to the vampires? Like is the squirrel equally angry as the cat? That's a good question.
That's really spectacular. I could have never guessed it a million years.
Should we have a book club? Should we read it in Swedish?
Let's do it. Just my eyes along every line, taking in nothing. And then I'll get to the end at some point. But I don't know. I'm very interested to read the book. I found some quotes. There's like a whole discussion board. LetTheRightOneIn.com. It's called like We the Infected. It's not LetTheRightOneIn.com. There's dashes in there, but I'll link to the post in our episode notes.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find the original post, but there is a post on there attributing some quotes to the author, because apparently the author has been active on the message boards. So again, these quotes are sort of like alleged. But they talked more about the information and like filling in Ely's background. And I think it's interesting because I want to know all of that stuff, but I also kind of like that the movie is allowing me to bring so much of my own ideas to the table, because I like my ideas. And I don't like that Hakan. Sorry, I was not confident.
Hakan.
I don't like that he's a pedophile. I reject, as I've mentioned.
Yeah.
But I am really curious. I do think his quotes were interesting though, because this post was specifically talking about Ely's gender.
Yes.
And what author said. Oh, what were you saying?
No, you go.
What the author said, allegedly, is I knew from the beginning that Ely was a boy. What happened when I let Ely meet Oscar was that Ely started to change his behavior from what I had originally envisioned. I didn't even know that they were going to fall in love, but I felt that Ely/Elias, I'm sure it's not pronounced that way, but would try to appear more likable in order to get closer to Oscar once he had decided not to kill him, which was the stroke on the cheek moment, which I love. It was so tender. But the author says, allegedly, since Oscar perceives Ely as a girl, Ely is content with not informing him otherwise, although he can't help himself on a few occasions. Ely doesn't want to fool Oscar. He is uncertain if Oscar's going to leave him if the truth comes out. And then also, in a separate quote, apparently, they said, Also, I tend to be interested in androgynous characters, and Ely was my first one. I wanted Ely to act as an in-between, girlish sometimes, boyish sometimes. He can be anything, and he surprised me many, many times while writing the novel. But from the beginning, Ely was just Ely, nothing, anything, and he is still a mystery to me. So it sounds, I mean, again, one of those things where it's like we have to we don't have to, but we're kind of coming in with our own notions of like gender and gender identity. And I don't know if that is information that we have as part of the queer community that maybe the author is less familiar with.
It was
or
also
different time
2004.
periods. Yeah, you're
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Like it just 2004 was different. The cultural conversations were not as large and loud as they are now. But
Yeah.
it sounds like Ely is just kind of gender fluid, maybe gender non-conforming. Maybe in the books, Ely apparently was castrated at some point, and we get
he was
that moment.
They were castrated when they were castrated, and then they were turned into a vampire. It seems like it was part of the
Like
same
interesting
experience. Yeah. Is
That's
that what
so
you saw too,
interesting.
Sydney? That's what I saw. That's the way that they phrased it in the article that I read that made some comparisons.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I'm making this up, but I think like I read something or heard something that Elias was back whenever in the 1800s, I guess 2000 years ago, was like sold to like a child like kind of sex slavey thing, and then was
Ew.
castrated and then turned into a vampire.
Hate
It's so
that.
fucked up. Yeah.
Poor sweet baby.
But I okay, one thing really quick aside, I think it's fascinating when authors are like, the character that is a living, breathing person inside of my mind told me this, and that's when I learned it about them. Like that's how he just phrased that. He was
That's
like,
how some
I
authors
didn't know.
write. Isn't that
I
interesting?
know, I think it's fascinating.
It's not how
That's
I write.
cool.
I
was gonna
mainly
ask
write
you.
fan fiction instead of creating my own characters. But I was talking about it with one of my writer friends recently, where I was saying like the hard part of writing for me is like making the decisions of what the character would do or how they would respond, and then like because I can justify like a couple different responses, and I'm always like, okay, which is the right one? Do I pick the one that feels like objectively true? Do I pick the one that like serves the story? And my friend was like, no, for me, like I just feel like this is that character and this is what they would do. The hard part is like the writing of it.
Wow,
Some people just have like
interesting.
very different. George R.R. Martin, who writes the Song of Ice and Fire series, the Game of Thrones books, he very much says he has like a gardener approach where like he has ideas for the story that he wants to write, but as he's writing it, it changes and characters like are presenting themselves and like who they are. I don't know. I think
God.
writing processes are so
I wish
interesting.
I had a beautiful mind like that.
I
Damn, that's
know.
cool.
I think it is fun that writers get to make up and tell themselves stories to stay entertained. But I don't understand. I don't have that same perspective of being like, this character lives in my brain and they introduced themselves to me and they were telling me like, this is what happens next. Yeah, like that is so interesting to me, that perspective.
Right.
Anyway.
So interesting. I just, what he said, that's cool that he thinks like that. But what he did say though, like irks me a little bit. It's like, fine. He is 2004. He's doing what he wants to do. But I don't like the idea of Ely like fitting into like whatever Oscar's idea of them is. You know what I mean? I don't like that as much. I feel like it takes a little bit of the agency of Ely's character out of it. But like that's why I can't say that I like the movie better than the book because I haven't read it yet, but I do like that they open the door for Ely to be a trans girl, like in this book, like or in this movie. In the book, it's like not like that. It's super weird. They refer to Ely with she, her pronouns the entire book up until the point where Ely reveals that they were once known. Sorry, it's weird to talk about, but once known as Elias and were born with like male genitalia, and then they call Ely by male pronouns for the rest of the book. I just think that's so weird.
It's a really interesting choice. I mean, it makes sense for like I said, I certainly didn't know there's a
2004? I don't know.
squirrel POV, so I don't know
Squirrel
where the rest
POV.
of it
Doing
is
a lot.
coming from. But it
John
makes
is
sense.
doing a lot.
It makes sense that Oscar thinks that Ely is a girl and so is using she her pronouns.
Yeah.
And then
I
once
don't know whose
discovers that's not the
perspective
case, is
it's
like,
from.
oh, let me update the language that's using for you to be correct, or I mean, probably not to your preference, because it sounds like they don't go, what are your pronouns? Although that sure would be
2004.
clarifying for us trying to use the correct pronouns. But some people use all different pronouns or use all pronouns or are just like happy to do whatever is in the moment. I mean, so maybe that can be its own nice representation, even if it's we would like a clear answer one way or another, so that we know that we
Yeah.
are not misgendering Ely this whole during Pride Month. During Pride
I know.
Month, we're just
Well,
doing our
I-
best.
That's why I think that Ely is really like a gender queer character, which is so awesome. We rarely get this. Because like they never say anything for sure. They're just like they say like I'm not a girl. What if I'm not a girl? That sort of thing. And like never really take it beyond that. And I like that there's like room.
And I love Oscar's response to that. Just like, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
Like, okay.
are you
And
gonna
do
be
you
my
wanna go-
GF
Are
or
you
not?
Are we
going
gonna
to
go
be-
steady or not? Like, come on.
Ely,
I like
baby,
that whole
can you
conversation.
please focus and answer the
Answer
question?
the question?
honey?
Yeah. I thought that whole dialogue was really, really cute. Because Oscar says Ely wanted to go study, and Ely says, "What do you mean?" And Oscar says, "Well, do you want to be my girlfriend?" And Ely says, "Oscar, I'm not a girl," which strikes me as very Janet from The Good Place. You know what I mean? Where Janet is like, this is how I present, this is how I look, this is how I am designed, but I am simply my own thing, and you can't really categorize me in the same way that you
Mhm.
do other people. But Oscar says, "Oh, but do you want to go study or not?" Which was just like iconic.
Or
I think,
not?
do you want to go study or not? Like, can we stay on point? But Ely says, "Couldn't we just keep things the way they are?" And Oscar says, "I guess." And Ely says, "Do you do anything special when you go study?" And Oscar says, "No." And Ely says, "So everything's the same?" And Oscar says, "Yes." And Ely's like, "Then we'll go study. It'll be you and me." And I was just like, that's so sweet, because Ely really is trying to be accommodating, and Ely just likes Oscar. Oscar was kind.
Yeah.
Oscar was like, "Here, have this Rubik's Cube.
You've never had a birthday party. Here's a present.
Yes, you've never gotten presents on your birthday. Here's a present right now." It's so sweet. It's
He's
so
just
sweet.
really sweet, even though he's gonna be a serial killer for a living very soon. But he's
Well,
sweet.
if he gets changed into a
He's
vampire, that's
sweet.
beyond his control. That's
Yeah,
what he
yeah,
needs.
yeah.
to
But he was probably
do
going
to
on that
live.
direction anyway. That's probably like I haven't
Maybe.
read the
I
second
don't
book,
know.
but maybe he was like, yeah, I'm already open to the fact that I am interested in killing, so might as well.
I don't know. I think he was interested in true crime, and I think he was approaching it from the same way that a lot of women and queer people do, which is, if I know these things, then I'll be prepared to defend myself, and I'll be prepared to stop bad things from happening. Because even in that confrontation with Lockie in the bathroom, like Lockie has a knife and then Oscar has a knife, but then Oscar doesn't have to do anything because Ely's like, "I got it, don't worry."
Yeah.
I reviewed my notes once you were telling me about that scene. But as prepared as Oscar maybe is, he's practicing his whole squeal little piggy thing. Like, there's only that one moment where he actually hits back. And so I don't know that he would have gone down the serial killer route. I think
Could have happened. Anything could
maybe
happen.
he's a little cupcake is all I know.
But okay, I think we need to talk about the end now.
Okay.
That last pool scene, because I'm sorry that it didn't get you going. Sorry, Sydney, but I was fucking freaking out. I rewatched this like 5 times. I was like, I loved this final scene. It starts out with, it's like basically like Connie's revenge, orchestrated by his psychopath older brother. They've like lured Oscar to the pool hall. They've set a fire in a dumpster to distract the teacher. They really thought this shit out. It's well organized. And they somehow have the scary power within themselves to make children scatter whatever if they just say the word. And so they clear out the entire pool hall, and it's just Oscar and these 4 other boys. And Connie's big brother is gonna drown him.
Oh yeah, full blown.
sure
You're
is.
gonna fully
Drown him.
drown him. And everyone's like, 3 minutes underwater holding your breath. Like, you're really gonna hold his head underwater the whole time? And it's a raw deal. You either drown, and if you somehow either drown, or if you don't drown, you still get stabbed. If you drown and then somehow are still kind of alive, your eye gets cut out. That's the deal that Oscar is given. An ear for an eye makes the whole world, I don't know. I was trying to make a
Makes the
play on
whole
the
world
words
have
with it.
poor depth perception. Yeah.
Yep, there we go.
That's the saying.
You've heard. Oh, her
That's
name
the
is
saying.
Genia. That's the lady's name. I just saw it in my notes. Sorry, that was unrelated. The nice lady. Because I was looking at my notes at the point. I'll go back to the end in a second. But the point where she looks like Kristen Milioti is right after she was trying to the blood pact. And then Ely runs out not to hurt Oscar and is like slurping the blood off the ground in the snow. Like I said, I was going to come back earlier, which is why I was like, I have to say this before I forget again. Slurping the blood off the snow from when she attacked Yaki earlier in the movie. And that's when Genia comes along. Poor Genia. But yeah, I thought the end was great because I loved that Ely had gone and then knew somehow that they needed to come back and that they needed to be there for Oscar, and that Oscar just like needed them in general. They needed each other. Oscar wanted to be blood buddies, and Ely said bet. But they came back, and it felt like very It Follows in a way, you know what I mean, with that scene and the atmospheric moment of it and the underwater.
Totally, but that was the worst plan that anyone has ever made, and It Follows.
Yeah. Yes. And it was a good plan that Connie and his brother came up with in this movie.
That was a great plan. If only there wasn't a vampire in the mix.
If
But
only
I
there
just
wasn't a vampire. But yeah, seeing
that
the head
shot,
go in.
the shot was so good. Like it's such a cool shot. It's an underwater shot of Oscar with the hand holding him down, and then you can just it's all his POV, so you hear what he's hearing, the watery sounds, and then you just start hearing these like abject screams of terror. But they're so muffled. I don't know. I just thought it was brilliant. The foot like flying across, the head being ripped off, the arm being ripped off, like, and then you get that I just loved it. They pulled him up from the water. He's not dead. And you just see Ely's eyes with the blood splattered face. And it's just a beautiful shot. Like, it's beautiful. I loved it. I was freaking out.
When Oscar
man.
smiles in that moment, I thought that was really sweet and
so
wonderful.
sweet.
And then
and
they
then they cut to the whole pool room, and everyone is just destroyed.
that one boy just sitting crying in the corner still. And you know what? That's the right response to have, I think. Maybe run, maybe. But I think he would have drawn attention to himself if he had. I think he stayed crying quiet. It saved his life.
Because he was already crying and had his hands over his eyes because he was like, I'm going to be an accessory to a murder right now. And he was like, he was sitting there being like, what has led me to be friends with these psychopaths, you know?
You should endeavor not to be an accessory to murder. That should be the goal. Generally speaking. Yeah.
Very sound advice.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, and then we get the final scene where it's clear that Oscar has run away with Ely, and they're on a train ride together into the great unknown. And apparently the Morse code that Oscar does is the word poos. And I was like, what?
We're
He's
being
running
so mature
pussy?
about it now.
What the fuck? And then it was like, which means kiss. And I was like, oh,
It means small
okay.
kiss, like a little
Well,
peck. Yeah.
interesting.
I want to know what
Anyway,
they tapped
a
through the
beautiful
wall
ending.
earlier. They didn't. That wasn't in the IMDb trivia. They only had the poos at the end.
They
Oh, he
say-
says sweet dreams.
Oh, that's right. There was maybe there was another moment where I was like, I wonder what that means. But you're right. When he tapped sweet dreams, I liked that too. I thought they just had like a very sweet relationship overall. There were points where Oscar was being a 12-year-old boy, which he is. So fair
Yeah.
enough.
It's literally a 12-year-old boy.
But I don't know. I thought it was very sweet overall. I thought they were like just really cute together.
They're really
I'm rooting
good
for them.
actors too. Those little
Yeah.
babies. They're great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've already discussed this at length. How could this movie be gayer? It is Pride Month. It's already gay, baby. That's the rules of the road. I mean, we don't need to force anything here. I like how ambiguous but fully canonically clear it is,
Yeah.
We could have had a gay kiss from the dad, so we just know for sure instead
Just
of
to
me briefly
clarify,
thinking that guy was a pedophile.
Their vibes were so weird for sure in that moment. And I've drawn my conclusion and I'm sticking to it. And I think there's text in the movie to back it up, but it would have been nice if it were a little more clear. I think that part could have been a little bit gayer, just so also you could fully link it to that moment where Oscar is seeing them together and then is looking at his note from Ely that basically says like, blah, 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 I'm yours, Ely. And then he's like, I gotta get home to my little babe. They could have done something, but I also felt like that was right. You know what I mean? Like with the dad's boyfriend allegedly coming in and being like, more than a roommate, with the way that he was like joining and like trying to engage, but like not really sure how to go about things. To me, those are gay dads. To me, those are 100% gay dads.
They're
Gay
100% gay dads. One thing that I wish that they had just said out loud was that the cat daddy was a canonically gay man too. Did you see that fur hat? Yeah. I liked him and his many, 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 many cats.
Also, Connie's gonna figure some stuff out at some point. Connie was way too flirty, I think. And I know that's like a bad, wrong trope of like, if you're bullying the gay kid, you're also gay and blah, blah, blah. And I don't support that overall. But I think there's something to it with Connie.
Yeah.
But I don't want him to have a Karofsky Glee storyline. So,
oh God,
I
fucking forgot about that shit.
Reject.
Ew.
He'll figure it out.
Bringing that up on this, the day of Pride Month.
On this, the day of Pride Month, I mentioned Glee.
How could you?
I'm so sorry. My apologies.
Yeah. But it's just, I'm glad that we had some cool non-binary representation happening in this movie. It was fucking cool. It was it's just so well done in the movie. I'm not going to talk about the
we haven't read it yet. We can't speak to that.
Jan learned from 2004 to 2008 something happened and it was a good thing. He made things a little more ambiguous.
Adapting to the medium where you can't give all the backstory without doing flashbacks or without being like, here is 10 minutes of exposition. It was really well put together in that sense. Yeah.
Good. Yes. Like, glad that they took that ability away from him in this case. Anyway, that brings us to where would Matthew Lillard fit in this film?
He could be one of the
Maddie,
cats.
baby. Yeah, you could voice one of the cats, or you could just have been one of the corpse.
That's what cats sound like, I assume.
Yeah, no, that was
cats
great.
make that sound. Sydney, speak to this. Is that
cats definitely make that sound. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Tight,
good job,
that,
Chelsea.
Maddie. That one's free for you. You just copy that, and you would fit right in. You'd do amazing.
You'd be amazing, sweetie, as one of
Mhm.
those CGI cats. But like, I don't want him in anywhere, anywhere in this. He's not Swedish. I'm sorry, he can't be in the club.
I think
He
he
could have
could
been in the Chloe
be.
Grace Moretz remake.
I think Matthew could be one of the gay dads.
Oh, were he
True.
to be in this movie, he could be a gay dad.
I
Yes.
could see him be a gay dad, a 2008 gay dad. Yeah, I see that. He's right around the age, around then too.
Right? I would love
That
that.
guy. Yeah. Okay. All right. Learn your Swedish now, Maddie. Then go back in time.
Well, the
and
dad
get
did-
it done.
The dad only spoke what, like 4 words max. So I think Maddie could pull it off. I think he could learn 4 Swedish words and be incredible.
Also,
Great job,
doesn't
Maddie.
Matt, why did I say that?
My
doesn't-
guy, Matt.
Doesn't my dear friend Matt, I think he has a child who is non-binary.
Really? That's awesome.
Incredible.
Oh, I love him. I love you, Matthew. I love you. Anyway, we got to move on. Who's the dumb bitch of this movie?
Oh God.
It's all the bullies.
I know, the bullies.
Honorable mention for Lackey, but he's not that bad compared to the bullies who are gonna commit a murder.
Lackey is also going to commit a murder, though.
Yeah, okay, but I know that we love Ely, but Ely did cause his girlfriend to explode through the transit property. So revenge.
Sure. Yes. I am willing to posit that Connie's older brother maybe would be the worst of the, not to excuse the bullying that Connie and Connie's friends are doing, because it is not good and not nice, and a 12-year-old should
They're
know
whipping
better.
him.
The whipping is frankly insane.
Nuts.
I don't know. For me it's Lackey or whatever. I just think he's the worst and I hate him the most.
It's for me. We're not going to agree on this one.
That's okay.
I just think it's all those bullies.
Sure.
They're all super dumb in their own way, but
What about
mostly
you,
Connie
Sydney?
and Connie's big bro.
Sydney, who's the dumb bitch for you? We'll all have our own, maybe. Or you can pick whatever you want. It's your choice. I respect your decision.
Honestly, kind of the mom.
Oh.
Ooh,
Like, she-
Okay,
fair.
explain.
She's like not great. Like she's not a good
She's absent.
right? She's like not a good parent. She's like kind of mean. I don't know, I hated her vibe. I felt so bad for Oscar.
She
Her
was
vibe
super pretty,
rancid.
but her
She
vibe
had a
sucked.
rancid vibe.
Yeah, I mean,
What
she
a
struck me
waste.
as like a single mom who was doing her best, but should not have been in a primary parenting role.
Here's the thing.
probably.
She wasn't a single mom who worked 2 jobs, who loved her kids
Her
and never
her
stopped.
kids and never
Like,
stopped. With keep going.
That was not
With
her.
something in the heart of a fighter.
Heart of a fighter.
She's a survivor. She's not a survivor. This is not
No.
her story.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that brings us to our knives out of 5s. And so, Chelsea, please tell me everyone loved you as much as me. Did they?
They did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, IMDb is a little not dicier, but it's not as high as Rotten Tomatoes. On IMDb, this movie has a 7.9 out of 10. But on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 98% fresh from critics and 90% fresh from audiences. So very high overall. And it got like a lot of awards on the festival circuit and stuff. It was like submitted a whole bunch of different places and got lots of nominations and awards. But I usually don't mention them, bless you, unless they're
I'm so
Oscars
sorry.
or People's Teen Choice Awards or whatever. So, that's my arena that I live in.
That's my barometer of success.
Yeah.
Oscars and Teen Choice Awards.
And like, given that we're a horror podcast, should I maybe pay a little more respect to all of the like horror awards? Maybe, but I see People's Teen Choice Awards and I go a hit. And it just floods my system and I can't pay attention to anything else. So that's just a
fair.
personal.
It's fair. Well, okay. Everybody knows what I'm gonna do already, so I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
I love this movie so much. I haven't watched a little art house slow burn in a minute, and I missed them. I had such a good time. I'm having a very bad week, and this movie made me so happy. Like, even though it's fucked up and the horrible things happen, I just was like, the world is a terrible garbage hole, but good cinema exists. And so that's nice. That's one nice thing in the middle of all this fucking horrible hell shit. So I don't know. Maybe I'm more perspective because of that. But I'm giving this 5 out of 5 knives. I think it's beautifully shot. It's really moving. The gore is really cool and well done. I loved the things that they picked from the vampire lore and how they use them. I love the subtle reveals. Like, it's got everything that gets Monica going, minus a lot of comedy, but we did get the cats. And so there's that. So that's it. I loved it. I fucking loved it. It was great. I'm gonna watch it again. I'm gonna watch it with Adam. I'm excited. 3rd time's the charm. I'm gonna love it even more. It's okay, Sydney.
Go ahead. It's all right. It's all right.
You
Say what's
where
in your heart.
You know where we're going with this. This is a 3.5 out of 5 for me.
That's fine.
Not enough blood for Sydney.
I was bored,
Mhm.
and I don't know if it was because I had a fever but I was so bored watching this. Like,
Yeah.
it was just like not for you know me. I don't like the fucking art house movies.
Mhm.
They're not
It's not your vibe.
they're not my vibe. Although now I do want to
Perhaps
watch the
conditions were
Chloe
not
Grace
optimal.
Moretz.
I feel the
like
vibe will be different in that film.
The vibe will
I
be
do feel the
certainly
vibe will be
different.
different.
Like,
The
I
vibe
think
will
the
be
vibe will
truly
different,
different.
but I wonder if I'll like it more. Like, because like this movie is a good movie. Like, it is aesthetically beautiful. Like, it has something to say. Just not to me, you know?
Sure. Not everything is
That's
for
fine.
everyone.
It doesn't get you going. It's okay.
But I will say though, I do like that it wasn't just like a gay or a lesbian or something kind of movie. I like that it had like a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think from a queer perspective, it was really interesting to see that it was like not central to the movie, but also like very much not glossed over necessarily. Like, it didn't exist in the background. It was like in the text. And I really appreciated that, because I think it would be really easy to not address that, which it seems they do in the American remake. I love a movie that is super, super queer. And I also love a movie that just lets queer people exist in that world, because queer people exist in the world. And I think they both have their place, and both can be really valuable. I think just like as a story, this was really sweet and beautiful. And I think what Sydney told me about the second book makes the ending a little less bittersweet than I thought that it was, which is nice. Because I very much was like, this is cute and I love it for them. Unfortunately, aging will happen for one and not the other, but perhaps that is not the case after all.
Very Twilight.
Very Twilight. Another clear reference. I just thought that it was beautiful. I loved when Yonki was pulled out of the ice and was dangling from it. I thought that was one of the best things I have ever seen. And I thought there were some really good like cinematic shots as well. I do also think that I wasn't bored, but like, I don't know. I thought about watching it again and I was like, it's fine. So I think it is a movie that I am not opposed to revisiting, but it's not going to be on my like rewatch list necessarily, but I'm also just not much of a rewatcher. That's not my arena. But I thought it was really good. So I'm going to give it like a 4.75 knives out of 5.
Thank you.
But I'm so excited for what we're doing next week.
Me too.
Because yeah, I mean, we have done the first movie. This is a sequel. And we talked about like exploring more of this franchise at some point. And now is the moment for us to dip our toes in a little bit more. Next week, we will be joined by our dear friend, who is one of our OG spooky crew. And he is going to talk with us about A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And I think it's called like Freddy's Revenge, right? Or something like that. What's it called?
I've never fucking seen it.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Yeah, I don't think any of us have seen it, right? Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. And apparently it is not necessarily, it doesn't say I'm a gay movie, but it is impossible to watch and not be like, that's a gay movie. So I can't wait to see what that means and find out more. I already have some notions of what that means, but I'm very excited to dive in.
Freddie's already like flamboyant as fuck. So like I'm just excited to see ways to make it more close to canonically gay.
And I can't wait to figure out how, you know, I love 80 movies, but I can't wait because this movie apparently is already like hella gay. I can't wait for us to be like, how can we make this hella gay movie
it could be
even gayer?
We can always make it gayer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the moral of the story. Important. Oh my God. Well, okay. Thank you for listening. Why not give us 5 stars and say something about being excited about Pride? Why not talk about how, you know, you have a new queer icon in Eli? Why not say I'm gayer now because of Spooky Tuesday? What about that? That's something you could talk about. You could write a short essay about how you learned things about being more gay from us getting creative every week.
You got some ideas about how you could be gayer in your own life from that little segmento.
Yeah. Why don't you write? You can name it. How could I be gayer? And then you could answer that question in the review part. Just a thought. Anyway. Also make sure to follow us on social media at spooky_Tuesday on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. We just hit 5,000 followers on Instagram, y'all. This is a big deal. We've been working towards this for a long time. So
and we love
hello to any new listeners.
Every one of you.
Yeah, I've been talking to some new faces online, and that's been really, really fun. So keep it coming, and we really appreciate y'all listening. Whenever you tell us that you listen, we freak out, and we're like, ee!
We do.
So you can tell us anytime.
Tell us always.
Tell us all the time. We're also at Spooky Tuesday on Facebook and Tumblr, and at Spooky Tuesday Pod on Facebook and Tumblr, and at Spooky Tuesday on Letterboxd. So, as we say every day, thank you for listening.
Bye, Spooky.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Haidt, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamra Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamra, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_OMG.